Hey, welcome back to Happy Hour at PathDAO, episode 2. I think we had our first one 2 weeks ago. So today we're talking DigiDaigaku's controversial, is it controversial? Perhaps controversial.
Maybe.
I think it is
Free
controversial.
to own model. A little bit of context over there. So a DigiDaigaku was a stealth launch. I think it was a stealth launch a couple of weeks back.
Because I mean, if it wasn't stealth, I would have.
Correct.
If
Correct. So
Yeah.
completely under the radar. Today, I could be wrong, but Josh, if we pull this up right now,
All right, let me
they
pull it out.
are at 15 ETH. So a free mint 2 weeks ago had a parabolic run up. Also announced what could be one of the biggest raises in Web3, raising over 200 million just a couple of days back. And we're here today to try to figure out what's going on. What is this free to own thing? How is it different that current models we're seeing today? We're seeing a lot of similar models where a game that is perhaps a year or two away launches an NFT collection, trying to raise more money. And how is it different from free to own, right? So Josh, are you
Yeah, I think what's super interesting is like I remember just an hour before this whole happy hour session, I was checking the price of DigiDaigaku. I think it was about 12 ETH. I think at its lowest it was about like 9 to 10 ETH. And just within that hour, it's now at a floor price of 13.37
insane?
with maybe 2 to 3 transactions worth of changing hands. As you can see on the screen, it's going from 11 on average, 10 to 11, all the way now to 13 in the span of last couple of hours, right?
But to be
Absolutely
honest, I felt that I missed out, man.
Same.
no, same dude.
Same, dude.
Same.
Dude, so when I was talking to a couple of VC friends 2 nights ago, when they announced their 200 million raise, he was telling us that he was in a circle of community where they were like damn happy that the floor price went from 0.2 or like was a free mint all the way up to like 1 E, and people were like so happy, right?
Yeah.
And then after that conversation, a couple of days later, it went up from 1E to 5E. And then after 3 days later, 5E to like 12, 13. It went all the way up to 18, I think. I was tracking. I was in my bathroom, scrolling my phone. It was like 2 hours.
Regretting life.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, man, should I eat this? Should I not? But yeah, man, that's the story of DigiDaigaku. And I think that's why it hit Twitter by storm. And everyone right now is talking about it, right? Trying to understand, like, is this model really new? Or is it not, right?
Oh, good point. Like that's a central question right there. I don't think it's new. Personally, I think we've seen iterations of this over the past 1 year. You had Loot, the all famous, I think at its all-time high, it hit about 30 to 40 ETH. And Ethereum at this time was $4,000, by the way, so insane value at the time. You had Bloot, which was also a knockoff of Loot. By the You probably have heard of this guy Beanie. I'm pretty sure if you were around last year in the NFT space, you would have heard about him. Free launch as well, and he was able to build like insane hype post launch, kind of similar like DigiDaigaku, right? And I think from my understanding, right, I could be wrong here, but feel free to chip in. The question that I have is there were a couple of issues plaguing free mints from last year. It fundamentally that there's no promises, right, behind what they want to do. There's perhaps a very bleak roadmap, or okay, I'm going to do this couple of things. There's no guarantees of free mint. What do you have to lose? It's heavily botted. Usually it's whoever can front run the fastest gets a free mint. A very poor distribution. The team does not get any starting capital as well, because the team needs to rely on secondary sales, on that percentage take from being like a really high project, and the team needs to build ongoing volume to earn and in return build a product. Those were some of the reasons that plagued the free to own model, and that was what led to NFT projects or gaming projects just promising, here's my NFT, buy it off of me, I get the capital, it's easier for me to build and work on something now. Thoughts?
Wait, so just to recap, the pain point that these developers faced was that they had lack of access to capital, and
Yeah,
NFTs was one.
that was one of the things, because like
Okay.
if you were to drop a collection off the bat, you're making everything in a go.
Yeah.
Right. Versus doing a free to own mint, therefore you need to build hype, and then you actually get a really small percentage compared to just launching your own collection.
But even in the prior, you also still need to build hype, right? For someone to be willing to buy and pay.
But not as much. Right?
Not as why not?
Because you're taking 5% of secondary sales versus perhaps 10% the hype, but you sell out your collection.
Right.
There's no revenue upfront for a game dev if you're doing free to own.
But you still need to build hype because,
Yeah.
in fact, you probably need to build more hype because you're forking out money to purchase.
Yeah. That's right.
So actually, that's the reason why I think they could go for a stealth launch, right? Because actually, in fact, even yes, like 2 days ago when it was like peaking, the Twitter follower count was only at like 5,000. It's not a lot because you think about it, right? For projects to hit the kind of floor, Invisible Friends were at like 300K
Fair.
like Twitter followers, right? That kind of level of hype, right? But somehow these guys they could hit a 15E floor, albeit only a 2K collection, with just a 5K following.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think I just want to kind of like show a little bit of an example here, right? Like on Twitter, which typically when you look at projects like Invisible Friends, or traditionally, and when I say traditionally, I mean like in the last couple of months, when you look at NFT trading, you're looking for like high top line number of socials, right? So if we trace back to DigiDaigaku, and let me just share screen here a little bit, right? This is kind of interesting. Oh, okay, it's already been shown. Yeah, so if you look at DigiDaigaku, if I scroll all the way up, you'd be able to see that they have only 11,000 followers. So just as proof, I'm just gonna just bring it all the way up. And this account is actually really, really new. It's 84 tweets old, so 11.2K followers. As you can see, Ethereum is following. But yeah, early innings, there's not much. It's just talking about reveals, talking about the picture. There wasn't much hype that was actually going into it. And for it to actually blow up is quite an insane feat, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And honestly, even before the 200 million funding announcement for Limit Break,
Yeah.
I think the floor price was already quite high. I think it was already 1E to 5E like that. So it's actually insane.
Yeah, it is. I think so. At free mint, this was in August 9th. It was free mint, and then it went up to a price of, at least average price, of 0.4, right, 0.42 ETH. And then after that, it just hovered around 1 ETH thereafter. But yeah.
All right. Okay. So then the central question remains this, right? I'm a game dev. My game is perhaps 3 years away, just like DigiDaigaku. You don't have much to show in terms of a roadmap or what you plan to achieve over the next 6 or 12 months. I want to raise money, right? Do I go for a free mint? Is that the best way, or do I stick with how things are being done in the space? And I have a collection, and I
Yeah, but I think before that, right, we have to understand what's the upside, right? I think what this whole free to own narrative, at least what their CEO is trying to say is that the upside here is that when a player joins the ecosystem, they didn't have to front any capital because it was a free mint,
it's free mint.
and hence the player will be less value extractive to the game economy because they do not have this whole mentality of I need to recover capital. That was his initial statement. I think he wrote it in the interview. If you guys want to check, there's actually a written interview with the DigiDaigaku CEO, right? The big question mark: 2,000 people into your ecosystem, they get a free mint. But the guys who bought on secondary markets, 15 E floor is not even close to the free mint.
Yeah.
And the point is that they're saying that these NFTs is a factory that produce subsequent gaming NFTs, right? Now, these subsequent gaming NFTs, yeah, it's free to the owners, But if I bought the Genesis NFT at 15E or 10E right now, I expect to sell these subsequent NFTs or these baby NFTs for a certain price to cover back my capital. Means the guys who buy these baby NFTs on the secondary market is gonna pay
Correct.
to enter this gaming ecosystem. So I think for me that's where it is a fundamental flaw in this whole free to own environment. I mean that's my point of view.
I got a counter, but so I think the question for me then is, you've made it free to own. It's now free. It's distributed, hopefully, although it's only to the early holders. And you've got people who are speculating on what they can potentially receive in the future in terms of value. And I'm not talking about the financial value here, but like, I think this is something that, Ryan quoted in sort of his metaverse Substack, which is economic relevance, which is what's the value it's going to have in the game in terms of utility. People are willing to speculate its price all the way up to 15 to now 13 ETH. Willing buyer, willing seller. Yeah, I actually don't see anything wrong with that. I'm pretty sure. So disclaimer, I don't know much about Limit Break. I mean, to be fair, it's stealth mode.
Yeah.
But if it's a free to play model, people would still come in. They may not need to spend on these particular Genesis NFTs. They could spend on these baby NFTs, but if they're too expensive, then that's probably not the only set of NFTs that you can own. But maybe this is for whales,
Yeah, but then what's the point of the whole free to own concept?
If you're catering.
I mean, you can call it a free mint, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think you can call it a free to own.
True.
It can be a free mint, right? Fine, Loot was a free mint.
Right.
But to actually be part of an owner in the secondary markets was fucking expensive. It's fucking expensive to own.
Right.
That's what you should call it then.
They should call it. They should call it.
Maybe it's a free to own mint. It's a free mint to own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it evolves immediately the next day to fucking expensive to own.
To own.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is today.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know, man. I just call it this concept. I mean, if you're me, I would say it's a bit of it's just a marketing charade or facade, right? Like, it's just to generate hype. But yeah, in the end, it's like I don't see anything new or innovative about it.
Okay.
Unless it's something I'm not seeing. I might be wrong. But at least from what I see as of itself today, I don't know, man. Sounds like a typical NFT project.
Which is really interesting because I think, coming into this space and thinking about NFT strategy and how you want to brand your game, and this is kind of hot topic, right? Because it's also very sensitive. If you call your game NFTs, you might instantly have a distaste among the gamers, right? But in this case, crap, I lost my point.
It's not even drum yet, but
I lost my point. No, but in this case, right?
If
If you actually look through how the price action happened, right? The biggest interesting point for me was that the CEO, which I don't know, am I still sharing screen?
No, yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me just share screen, right? And I gotta take you through the timeline because I think this is actually important to note. And bear in mind, if you guys are sort of, NFT observers, that you've been in the space for a while, you've been, observing how NFTs develop. Let me just bring up the CEO. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, but the point was, I think what was interesting is that the CEO was talking about DigiDaigaku as if it was a typical NFT project. So he would talk about, okay, guys, what does the community want? NFT airdrops or not? A lot of suspense, pretty much it. GM, the regular Web3 stuff. And I think for me in my head, I was like, what happens if you overbrand this as an NFT project? People might think it's a ruggy kind of move that might early on endanger your brand, your game. But actually, maybe it's favorable as well because now it's like, look, I've got my price action of my NFTs to a blue chip price. 13 ETH is really difficult to achieve, even for like Doodles or Azuki, and that took time, right? This almost pretty soon, and it's still hovering its price, right? Its floor price. Now you can actually focus on developing the game, which you will continue.
Yeah.
You have a successful NFT project, and you have that blue chip as marketing, blue chip price as marketing, and the price growth also as marketing. And now you just focus on literally shipping all the suspenseful updates on your game. You've won on both sides,
True.
you know? Whereas versus to a lot of the NFT games that are and bear in mind these are good games, right? Let's say Play Senders, Metalcore, Earth from Another Sun, all these like AAA or nice looking games, mobile, not mobile. They're doing the NFT launch. Or even what was the latest one? Champions Session, right? Pretty cool developers, whatnot. Their NFTs are like kind of tanked. You know what I mean? So there's something these people have done that's right that the others have failed,
True.
at least in the early sale.
It's interesting, right? So meaning that what you're saying is that if I run my game like an NFT collection, you can sustain hype. You can build and sustain hype,
You can.
which is very important for your DAU growth in your game.
True.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Okay. So let's just talk about another part of the DigiDaigaku mint, right? So in DigiDaigaku's instance over here, those that are first to mint become kind of like producers slash factories, right? For every subsequent airdrop down the road, right? The question I have is this is a random thought, by the way, right? Question is, what qualifies them this privilege, right? Is it just because they were early and some of them spent big on the secondary market, and then it kind of raised like an important question back in my head, like who actually deserves to be a producer?
That's a very good point.
And I have three scenarios over here. Number one, a time-based production where people who are early get to produce. So this is exactly what DigiDaigaku is right now. Number two, a money-based production system where the highest bidder gets to produce. Or something more favorable and equitable, and perhaps my favorite is a skill-based production system where the top players get to produce.
I think honestly, that's a very interesting.
Why? I mean, why is no one thought? Oh,
I I I think I okay, I don't have like fully refined thoughts, but I think it kind of depends on how your economic system in the game works, right? Because you know, in production, you ideally want to maximize your capital for the best efficiency for the best output, right? And so where you want to centralize your production capabilities is where you can have economies of scale. In this case, if there are people who are very rich, again, it's all in the context of that economic or game system, right? But the thing is in game systems, there's not much cost actually to reproduce things, unless maybe in game you have to grind for certain items or some items are really scarce. I don't know what my point is.
Okay, on that note, I think we're gonna share the game sheet code. I don't know, what was it again?
All right, so today's game street code number one is Loot 2.0. All right, I'm gonna say it one more time, or you can just check.
In the banner below.
Bottom banner below.
Loot
2.0.
There we go.
So let me just like perhaps try to simplify. Unless you thought you want to.
So the point here was like, what's the right way, right?
Yeah, correct.
But if you look, I think right, like in the end, just looking at how a lot of games tend to incentivize people, they tend to reward the most loyal fans, and a lot of time loyalty comes with time, right? And I think the reason why a lot of people tend to do that is because you were there to support the game before it even showed any signs of success.
True.
And normally that's how people tend to reward fans. I think it's just an innate human nature, right? Like you tend to love people who love you first before you could be successful. Right?
Yeah.
And you could see the equivalence, right? I think in Warframe, right? I think it used to be a top 10 player grossing game in Steam. For them, the perks came through their Excalibur Founder Edition, right? And the idea was if you were a player in the first, I don't know, 6 months of the game, you could buy
Yeah.
a founder Excalibur skin,
Yeah.
right? And then that was like the holy grail of the entire game, right? So I think that was how they tend to incentivize loyalty. But with this whole factory model, now you're rewarding someone with the ability to produce assets in your ecosystem, and these assets might have monetary value, right?
Correct.
I feel that might change things a bit, where it's probably if you are an ecosystem that wants to reward people to actually fight for your leaderboard, which a lot of games do, right?
True.
Because when you design a system for people to fight for the leaderboard, that's where you can monetize. You get people to pay for better weapons, better items, or pay for progression. And if that's the case, maybe it might make sense actually for the factory capability to be given to your top 100 or to your top 10,000 users, right, or gamers. And you incentivize, part of the incentivization to climb leaderboard is not just for bragging rights, but also for rights to be a productive asset
True.
in the game. I know. I think that's my point of view. I think it should be based on skill. It kills two birds with one stone.
True.
You reward people who fight hard, and you also then limit the production capability to a select group of people, right?
Specific group of
A specific
people
group of people.
that aren't going to destroy your in-game economy. That makes sense.
You look skeptical.
No, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So you've got a collection of now 2K people. You want to distribute it meritocratically to all the best skill players. So let's say top 2,000 people, because this power allows them to, well, one, because it's deserving. Two, they're able to produce
more
assets
assets.
that hopefully is favorable in climbing that sort of leaderboard. It's fair. It's fair. I'm trying to think of different points. Just to add to the conversation.
Imagine in DigiGaigaku today, right? Like it's free to mint, but then when someone beats you at leaderboard, they snatch your NFT away.
Hey, that's interesting. That would be
That
interesting.
would be interesting.
Also,
No, I mean that's so fucked up.
like a really
actually.
high risk, high reward kind of.
It's fucked up. I spent 15 to get this factory NFT,
Okay.
and if I don't fight hard for it, it goes away. It's like a girlfriend,
True. I mean,
right? You spend
Fair.
like a lot of money,
yeah,
gifts and such, and then if you don't maintain it, someone comes and swoop it away.
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
Right.
Right?
Interesting. Okay. So those are our thoughts.
Actually, I'm trying to think about this distribution point of view, right? What happens if you distribute it to all whales?
Only whales. Or
Only
lots of
whales, yeah.
Problem about the ecosystem is whales tend to be flippers, and that's why they're whales.
True.
So I don't think whales will have your best interest at heart, I guess.
But what is your best interest at heart? Because so I see it in two contexts. One is the NFT outside of the game and its price action and how that generates trading volume
Interest,
and revenue for the developers.
Correct.
And two, its impact in the actual game itself. It has a 2,000 supply. It's already, let's say the game is live, it's already producing assets. And this can be seasonally bulked by the game developers. So in that sense, you may own this NFT, but its power, usage, balance in the game is at the hands of the developers still. So TBD on that front, but they ideally don't want to rug you as original holders, right? Then again, it was a free mint, and so if you bought in, that was with your own money, that was on your own account. If they rug you, it's not really rugging, it's just more of just balancing for their game, right? But anyways, so the point is, all this to whales, you're getting trading volume, developers getting money, whales are playing their own game as whales do, it's flipping. The price may be volatile as hell, fine, let it be so. But it works for them as developers, right? If you reward it to skill-based players, yes, you can use it in game, right, and try to climb the leaderboard, assuming those assets are for leaderboard assets,
Yeah.
for leaderboard power ups or power up assets, right, in your progression. But if these assets were just like cosmetic houses or cosmetic assets, then technically there's no progression of power up. So even if it's two skilled based gamers, what else are they going to use it for except for maybe just vanity? And in the end, they might just flip it as well.
On that point, right? I mean, if the whale's only value add to the ecosystem is by providing that kind of capital, to be honest, you have real gamers. And the free to play market today are powered by these people.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think you mentioned before, like on Rise Kingdoms, there was a guy that spent $1.5 million
Holy
building
shit.
his city, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of rich ass gamers in this world. So why not sell to those guys as well? Those guys who are fighting for your leaderboard, willing to spend money to fight their way up to this top 10,000 or top 1,000.
Yeah.
In return, they get this productive asset mechanism. You reward them a bit so that they are more incentivized to throw even more money into your ecosystem.
Yeah.
And in fact, your floor might be higher. Your floor might not be 15, it might be 50.
You might then, but then you have to specifically target them, or maybe they might be naturally attracted somehow. They might discover you. But I guess the question I'm just trying to think of is on the topic of, equitable distribution or decentralization, right? Giving it to one for one each holder or stuff like that. Does it really matter? Okay, I won't cover the decentralization point of view. I think there's good points there, but does it need to be equitable? Like fair or something.
What do you mean by that? So everyone gets same drop, or everyone is allowed the same drop?
As in, wouldn't Sorry, now I'm digressing. But I guess maybe an interesting point would be like, let's say I have a total supply of 2,000. Do I need to give it all free mint at the start?
Okay.
Why can't I save, let's say, 1,500 of them for later mints? It already has its base price. Just phase it out in different phases and use that as also another marketing tool to drive more acquisition.
Equitable distribution.
Equitable, yeah, you can say, because there's the
Equitable
early
distribution.
and there's the
Yeah.
mid stage, early, semi-early adopters, and then more mass, and then give up.
But the danger about that is you're creating an inflationary risk to the asset holders. It's the same reason why a lot of tokens face sell pressures, right? Because you have a bunch of unlocks waiting to happen. Same thing, right? If you have NFT,
True.
there's a bunch of unlocks waiting to happen. The original guys who came in, trading at 15E right now, right, if you release another 2,000 collection,
Yeah,
the price will half, right? It's that kind of risk, right?
it would, but you got it for free at the start.
Yeah, but you fuck up the secondary buyers.
But the secondary buyers, too, that's their problem, right? Isn't it?
A willing buyer, willing seller problem.
Correct. Willing buyer, willing seller. Now, if you're buying into DigiDaigaku today, let's say at 1 ETH, right?
Yeah.
The shit goes to zero, right? What can you do? I mean, it was predicated based off a really sexy waifu picture. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It's for collectors, right? I mean, I do it myself. But that's just the reality of the space in general. And it's not just NFTs, it's just things in general, right?
Yeah.
You're buying this thing as a consumption, not as an investment, right? So for secondary buyers, I'm sorry, too bad, can't help you. Willing buyer, willing sellers, right? But it was free at the start. And yes, there will be dilution, that's fine for price. But look, it's free. You like the game, you're loyal, right? And you actually wanna have a stake in it, like by collecting or whatnot.
You like the guess it?
Isn't it? No?
Interesting. But here's the thing, right? When you said I like the game, I don't know what the game was about.
Right.
Like the issue I have with DigiDaigaku is they took a PFP approach.
Yeah.
They didn't take I'm building a game. These are my NFTs, and this is exactly what you can do with my NFTs that you see as most gaming collections.
Right.
Right. So you're a PFP collection then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. Like you may not know everything, right? But maybe 3 months later, you find out there's a little bit more about this project. That is cool. Sure, it's still speculative, but hey, it's free, right? You kind of like it. Maybe price is obviously an incentive to want to mint it. And you still come in now. And you still come in. Right? The only difference is just what information are you using to market and to position what
Mhm.
this project is about. Yeah. Which actually on the point that you mentioned is kind of interesting because NFTs are tokens. They're non-fungible tokens. And in the other world of crypto, there's fungible tokens. What happens if you give all your tokens out for free?
That's interesting. So that's
Right.
how. And then you only take a piece of the trading fee.
Interesting. So you have your own decks essentially. Your own decks.
No, see, he could. This guy. I mean, like this project could only do this whole free to own, right? I mean, free to own. It's only because I think the founders knew that they could raise on the equity portion.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's so uncertain, man. Like, what if there's no trading volume?
True.
There's no fucking way you'll
True,
be able to
yeah,
deliver on your
yeah.
game,
Yeah,
right? Takes money to build things,
that's right.
right? So, to be honest, even this concept in itself, it's highly specific to founders who have some form of
True.
massive track record. The 200 million raise, it's probably like what, a sixth biggest or fifth biggest raise in the entire gaming scene.
Yeah. Who's the first biggest?
Actually, to be honest, right?
50 million.
Mythical games, perhaps.
No, but if you take total raise,
Total
right? So
raise,
like people like what's the space? Star Atlas raised 300 million, including all the NFT ships that they sold.
Right, right.
Mythical raised 270, but that's pure cash.
A big time in terms of NFTs raised about 125 million.
Yeah, and then you have Illuvium at like
But
200.
those are NFTs though. Oh, unless you're counting NFTs.
You
as well.
count both
You
the
count
equity and the NFTs, right? In terms of like fundraising perspective, right?
Right, right.
So, but I mean, just saying to raise that kind of capital, it's very rare,
Oh,
Correct,
yeah.
correct,
right?
correct.
So, yeah. So I mean, this kind of model is probably only works for like people like Gabriel, right? Like
Yeah.
it's easier for him.
I mean, Gabriel did sell his previous company for 300 million to Apple.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, that's a track record right there. You need
yeah.
So he sold for 300 million, and now he raised 200 million for a whole new game.
a whole new
strong, dude. Really strong.
Damn good raise
Yeah.
capability.
But honestly, based off all the information, I'd back the guy myself. So yeah.
So Gabriel, if you're listening, we're interested. Hit us up. Okay, me hit you up. Me send your DMs a bit. I don't know.
Gotcha. Disclaimer: no hate on the project. There's a lot that we don't know about. I think specifically about Limit Break,
Yeah.
since it's still in stealth. But really interesting developments of how this has sort of played out. Yeah.
All right. So then, I guess to like wrap things up, right? Free to own, is this going to become the norm? Are we going to see like 20 different projects try to push their own free to own over the next 3 months? Is it going to be a new trend, or you're still going to see games try to push their own traditional? Here's my empty collection. Buy it off me.
I I personally feel like this is going to be. I don't think it's going to be a trend per se. It's clearly less favorable for developers because you're not selling your NFTs, you're not booking revenues at the start. But I think this will be a mainstay in the future of Web3 games, assuming that this is going to be free to play. And if I want to start and I need an NFT, then I need to free mint to, I guess, own and play the NFT, right? And should that NFT have future value based off someone pricing it in, go ahead, right? But the point is there's accessibility here. And yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm it's actually in Rise's tweet, right? He talks about if as a developer, if you sell your NFTs up front and you book revenues up front, you're less incentivized to actually ship the game successfully because you already booked revenues. It's like an NFT project, you have some underlying narrative that you're writing on. Sell rug, right? In this case, now you actually have to deliver, right? And you have to deliver so much that you're hoping that the secondary value should ideally increase because people are pricing in your updates or whatnot. Fundamentally speaking, right? So it makes sense. It makes sense to me. And it makes sense also in the context of, let's say, guilds. I know guilds are going through a whole shift in the space as well, but just FYI for a lot of people that don't know, a lot of these projects and game projects, they will come up to guilds and say like, hey, I want to sell you my NFT for 100K package, 200K package, whatever, right? Just give me your money. I'll give you my NFTs that I don't have a game yet and all of that. and we still buy it even though there's no utility. So I don't know, like, so I have mixed thoughts around this. I actually don't feel like it's a great way of distributing your NFTs.
Got it.
But that's just my personal thoughts.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like this whole there's two parts, right? It's the free to mint side and the factory NFTs. The free to mint side, I mean, it's not new. It's been happening around.
Right.
NFT projects do it. I think that's just a conscious choice. I honestly still think the majority of developers will go down the mint with money approach because that's how
Right.
you get more capital to work with. In terms of the factory NFTs, is that new? I mean, it's happened before. I mean, it's not a super innovative concept, but for gaming, that you have a parent NFT keeps dropping you babies, um, without anything, right? It just drops you babies. I think fair. It gives more utility to NFTs. It's great. Will more game developers do that? Potentially, potentially. Um, but honestly, yeah, I there might be when you do this, just this free like pooping of NFTs, what happens is you are losing one massive sink, utility sink, right? For any kind of
Yeah.
tokens in your ecosystem, right? So I don't know. Like I personally feel if I'm a developer, I would be doing a different approach. But I mean, time will tell if this whole free to own model would actually be the mainstay model for gaming.
Wait, I'm curious. I want to double click on that. Right, when you say a different approach, what would that approach be?
So like you actually mint with money, right? You actually raise money through minting.
Right. So you would sell NFTs at the store in exchange for money, and I give them an asset that has hopefully future value in my
Yeah.
game. That's kind of like Kickstarter crowdfunding. Yeah, that's possible. It's actually how it's kind of being run today.
Kind of
as
be
well,
done
right?
today as
Right.
well, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you heard it all. So if we've got time, let's try to pick a couple of questions from the community.
Yeah.
Right, Josh?
Let's do it. Let's do a quick. Well, actually, maybe before the questions, let's do a final sharing of Game Street code number 2. It is. What is it?
Free to own. Game Street code number 2 is
Free to own. Down in the banner, free dash to dash own. You can use it to do something with Game Street. That's right. Okay, let's pick up some questions.
He meant the Game Street quest.
Yes, the Game Street quest. Amen.
Do something with Game Street.
Amen. All right, so let me pick out some questions and keep it coming, right? Because I think this is an interesting conversation. All right. Keep it coming. Okay, cool. We have a question. This is 5:43 p.m. from Mama Pleasm. Do you think these things are short-lived from a business perspective? That the ambitious NFT value in the future is just a long shot? Repeating the question, do you think these things are short-lived from a business perspective? And if the ambitious NFT value in the future is just a long shot?
Right. So if you're asking the point around like if the project builds so much hype around the NFTs like today, can it maintain or go up in way more value in the future? Can it maintain that value or grow in value, right, in the
Yeah.
future? Honestly, yes, right. I think we've seen even just pure NFT projects and pure community projects like your blue chips, right, like Basie,
Macy, Doodles,
yeah,
Cats.
Azuki's, and I mean like even Cyberkongs, right? Like all these projects, they started off with a very cheap valuation. When they started delivering value to their community, be it the merge, be it whatever they stated on their roadmap, it starts to grow, right? People get trust and people believe that there's actually more to come, and then that valuation goes up. And the beauty in gaming is that there's actually, on top of all this perceived value, there's actually true value that you can create or accrue to these NFTs, right? So it's actually possible. It is actually really possible to for these NFTs to hold value in the long run. But the question is, can they deliver,
Yeah.
right, on the game? And two, it's do the value accrue to the NFTs from the game, right? Because a lot of times the developers, if they don't hold the NFTs, the incentive is to actually accrue the value or whatever revenues they're making from the game to the tokens or to their equity portion, right? And then they leave the back holders of the NFTs like dry. So yeah.
Yeah, I also want to add on to Jensen's point a little bit, right? And I want to make the distinction between price and value, right? I think anything that goes up in price, regardless of whatever the asset is, right, in like, exponential parabolic curve, is bound to down because someone would have bought in at a cheaper price. 1 hour later, if you're telling me I 10x'd it, look, I may love the game or whatnot, but I'm gonna sell. You know what I mean? I got a TP, and you can ask anyone, whoever is a look. If they're super rich, they don't need the money, fine. But
Yeah.
most people would just TP, right? Like take profit. And so again, any strong price action would follow with a strong price action downwards as well. But does the value fundamentally change? Technically, no, right? The value is dependent on its utility, or either fundamental value of like actually what you can use it for, or maybe perceived value. And whatever it is between these two values and the actual, and plus the third value, which is the price, there's always that sort of disparity, and that's where yeah, if it's too big of a gap, it's clearly short-lived, but it will revert back to the mean ideally, whatever that mean might be, mean meaning the average, and whether it's going to retain value in the long term, i.e., sort of this linear curve, apart from the noise in between, that depends on, yes, can they deliver, and also and yes, can they deliver, and the incentives among the developers and the assets to where value is accrued. So thank you for your question, Mama Pelism. All right, apologize for destroying your or butchering your name if I did. Okay, second question is Amy's asking 5:46 p.m. What's Josh craving for today? It's not big ass. All right, maybe ass. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But no. So that's it. All good. Any more questions, guys? Just want to check. So far, we've got no questions coming in. I think we can actually sort of end it. Save you guys a bit of time on your Thursday.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. If you have any thoughts, feel free to leave them down in the comment section. And
Right.
Follow us on the socials.
Subscribe. Get your friends to subscribe.
Like that video. Follow us on Twitter. If you're not already part of Discord, I don't know what you're waiting for. To be honest, you need to be in our Discord. And yeah, till next time.
And hold on, just one last bit. I think what would really be cool is if once this goes live, retweet this, we'll quote tweet this, and tell us what you think. One-liner, what you think. That's it. All right.
Peace out.
Peace out. Thanks. Cheers.